All right, guys, we have a special guest. We have two today. We have Ice White, who actually came on the show, and he did one of my favorite pickup lines I've ever seen. You know, he came on the show, he did it for me. And then also we have Ross Jeffries, who's like a legend in the space. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, Pearl. It's a pleasure to be on with you. I congratulate you on your fantastic work ethic. Your family should be proud of you. It's an amazing work ethic. My family and my mother would be proud of you. So it's great to be on the show.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm. Loving your setup too. Amazing upgrade from before.
Yeah, yeah, I really enjoy the this setup more than the panels. The panels were driving me nuts. I can't do it anymore.
Why? Too much drama?
Yeah, I've talked to enough OnlyFans models for a lifetime, I think. I just think I've talked to enough.
Mm,
Ross, welcome to the show. So tell me,
Thank you.
would you consider yourself like a PUA? Is that what you would consider yourself?
I consider myself a revolutionary thinker. I consider myself a seductionist. PUA tends to have the connotation now of someone who puts on a funny hat and does demonstrations of higher value, et cetera, et cetera. My focus when I teach my students is this. Is rather than look at the behavior you want from women, whether it's having them sleep with you or give them your phone number, look at the emotional states you want them in. How do we use our language to create states of fascination, of connection, of arousal? Because my basic teaching, and again, this is not science, I'm going to make a distinction, Pearl.
Mm.
When I say something that's not science, I'm going to say this is just my map, it's only my experience. My general idea is that women see us through the emotions they feel for us. So if you want to appear more attractive, if you don't have the typical things that women look for, like social status, the ability to provide, you need to be able to trigger those very strong emotional states. So she looks at you through those states. So that's basically what I'm teaching men to do. And the second part of it is I am a healer. About 40 to 50% of the men who come into my events over 30 years, that's tens of thousands of people. That's not marketing, that's literally true, have undergone some serious trauma in the home, either from bad parenting, from watching their parents go at each other, from emotional abuse to absent caregivers, you name it. So, one of the differences in our orientation, and I do respect your orientation, I don't agree with your views, most of them, or how you hold them. But one of our differences, I look at a lot of what you would call slutty behavior or hoe behavior, not as a character flaw, but something that's driven by trauma. So, that's one of the things I'd like to dive into today.
Okay. So what do you think all slutty behavior comes from trauma?
No, that's not what I said.
Oh, sorry.
I said when people are traumatized, it interferes with their ability to form pair bonds.
Mhm.
This is solid research if you look into anything that has to do with attachment theory.
Mm.
So, yes, you're right. When you say that slutty behavior gets in the way of forming good pair bonds, you're right. But the causal arrow also goes the other way. The inability to form good pair bonds due to trauma in childhood leads to slutty behavior because slutty behavior is one way to get attention. It's a, a unhealthy way to do it
Mhm.
for many, many reasons. So it goes both ways. So my basic point is what you call slutty behavior and that you sort of attribute to being morally depraved, I see as arising out of trauma. And people who are traumatized ought not to be stigmatized. They ought to be treated with compassion. Doesn't excuse their behavior, doesn't make their behavior attractive. It just explains it in a different way.
So would you link it back to like fatherlessness, I'm guessing? Is that what you mean by trauma?
That's part of the issue. Sometimes it's sexual abuse. Sometimes they just don't have a caregiver, either mother or father,
Mm.
who's a safe place to go to for their emotions. The child is told, you don't really feel that, or get away, ignore me. In my case, when I was angry, I was told, no, you're not angry. We don't get angry in this family. So it's not just limited So fathers being absent, although that certainly is a very damaging thing. I agree with you about that.
Mhm.
That's just axiomatic. There's no arguing against that. But there are many ways in which trauma arises in family systems. Again, if you look into family systems therapy, if you look into attachment theory, there's many, many different ways. It could be chronic trauma. Chronic trauma is when it's low-grade trauma, but it's consistent. Acute trauma is something like you witness a car accident, or you're sexually abused, or you get shot, or God forbid, like my father was a soldier, he had terrible PTSD. My take on it is men and women, all of us are traumatized in one form or another. This is a very traumatic world we live in.
Mhm.
So a lot of the behavior that you attribute to being character flaws, as a healer, I see as trauma,
Mhm.
not a moral failing or anything like that. Now, is it true that a lot of women and a lot of men have moral failings? Yes. But I don't think that's gender specific. I think it runs across all of humanity. It's
Mhm.
human, it's part of human nature.
So when you say like you said acute trauma, was that what you said? You said listed two types of trauma. Can you say that again?
Yes, there's chronic trauma,
Mhm.
which is low grade trauma, like having a caretaker who ignores you, or being present in a family where there's no physical affection, which I'm being transparent here.
Mhm.
That was my family. We were very, very well attended to and cared for, but there was no physical affection whatsoever. Never got a hug from my mother, never got a hug from my father. I'm not looking for sympathy,
Mhm.
but it twisted and distorted my hunger for touch. You understand?
Mhm.
So chronic trauma is low grade. Acute trauma is something that's very severe, being molested, watching someone be murdered, going through a violent act, being in a car accident, being shot. That's acute trauma.
So
Far more,
oh,
yeah,
sorry, keep going.
no, you go.
So I'm curious, how would you explain, because I guess sometimes I feel like people use trauma as an excuse. And I'll see two people from the same family come out completely different. Like, I'm talking sisters 2 years apart. One will be the Virgin Mary, one will go crazy, And I see this all the time. And I think because I have, I have 9 siblings, so I'm one of 10. I see the difference, like, in, I guess, choices that you can make in a family. Like, every, like, kid in my family, I would say, is pretty different. So I guess I'm just curious, like, how you would differentiate the two.
Excellent question. I'm not a scientist, so when I don't know the exact answer, my honest answer
Okay.
is I don't know. My guess is some people are just hardwired to have a more reflective kind of consciousness. They can reflect on experience rather than be pulled into it. But here's another thing
Mhm.
that the research shows: the person who's able to handle the trauma better has what they call a compassionate witness. In my case, my eldest sister, well, I had another sister who passed on from cancer, but my current oldest sister, she was my compassionate witness. When I was the subject of abuse, she would see it, she would hold me, she would say that was wrong. So I had a compassionate witness. That's one explanation I would give. The rest of it, I really don't know. I haven't looked at the research. I don't even know if there is good research on it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So I'm curious, you said you don't agree with me in a lot of my views. What else do you disagree
Yes,
with?
a bunch of them. And not only do I not
Yeah.
agree with the views, I don't mean to be insulting, but the way in which you go about them, it's
Mhm.
not nuanced thinking.
Okay.
So let me make it very clear. I am not a feminist by any means. I'm not a leftist. I'm not a liberal. I'm a libertarian. I need to preface it. I will get to your question.
Mhm.
I believe in as little government as possible. I'm very pro science. I believe if you make a claim, as far as possible, point to the research. If you don't have the research, say it's just my opinion.
Mhm.
I'm pro clear thinking, and I'm also pro basic human rights, basic democratic rights. So
Okay.
let's get to the first one. Women should
Women
not,
shouldn't vote. Yes. Yeah.
women shouldn't vote. Let's look at that. Women shouldn't vote.
Mhm.
I believe some of your reasoning, because I did my homework on you,
Okay.
is that women just don't know how to make good decisions. They're dumber. They're not good decision makers. Is that a
Well,
fair?
Yeah, well, I would say it's because we don't do the hard jobs in society. We don't pay the majority of the taxes. So I've always said as a caveat, if a woman's tax paying, not on child support, not on alimony, but and um or does an infrastructure job, like she's involved in the military, I think that would be more of an exception though than the rule.
So let's look at the logical extension of that idea.
Yeah.
By that reasoning and by that rule, men who do white collar jobs,
Hmm.
accountants, attorneys, engineers,
Hmm.
should not have the right to vote because they're not doing that hard work.
Well, if they're net taxpayers, they would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, women pay taxes too. So what are you going to do, Pearl? Let's look at this practically,
Hmm.
Pearl.
Hmm.
Are we going to review everybody's tax returns to see if they're qualified to vote?
Hmm.
If we're really going to stick to your idea and take
Hmm.
it beyond a provocation into an actual practical idea, are we going to look at everybody's tax returns? What about people? Let me finish.
Hmm.
What about people who one year are paying a lot of taxes because they're making a lot of money, and the next year they're not making a lot of money, and so they're not paying a lot
Right.
of taxes?
Right.
Practically speaking,
Yeah.
how do you administer it? You can't do it.
Yeah, that's
That's number
true.
one.
Okay.
And number two, as a libertarian, I want as little government as possible.
Hmm.
But as a libertarian, I think it's a basic fundamental value of any democracy. If you're subject to the laws that the government is going to impose upon you
Hmm.
by force, because that's how government imposes its law, it does it by threat of putting you in jail or harming you physically,
Hmm.
then you should have a say in what those rules are. It's just if you are being affected by those laws, you have the right to have a say in it. That's
Hmm.
just basic, fundamental human rights. That's basic, enshrined
Yeah.
in the
I
Constitution.
guess for me, it's difficult when you don't have any skin in the game. When you have people voting for more benefits and more handouts that don't face the consequences of paying for them, I guess is where I have a problem. And
I
the
agree with you.
women shouldn't vote is more tongue in cheek because I just think a lot of women. I mean, I just see a lot of useless jobs that we're doing. Human resources, just and
I think
and
that's a
and
strong.
and
I
women that
think
are
that's a.
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's a straw man.
Okay, go ahead.
Uh, okay, so there are plenty of women who are judges, plenty of women who are attorneys. I know in my family,
Mhm.
and again, this is a
Yeah.
just a small sample. My family, all the women are professionals. I have a sister who's an entrepreneur, multi-millionaire
Mhm.
in real estate. One of my nieces is very, very famous. I'm not going to mention her. Ice knows who she is because she doesn't want her name
Right.
associated with Ross Jeffries. She could buy and sell all of us 20 times over. She's a two-time best-selling author. She gets $25,000
Yeah.
per speech. So and I know, and I say this with respect, I'm not
Mhm.
attacking you.
Yeah.
Your own mother is an incredibly successful CEO. She raised 10 kids.
Mhm.
That woman, you should be kvelling about her. Kvelling is a Yiddish word that means just glowing with joy and boasting about her
Mhm.
with total pride. So if you're going to make it about accomplishment, then how are you going to measure that? And
Mhm.
as far as voting for benefits,
Mhm.
that's a leftist thing.
Yeah.
That's not a feminist thing. That's a leftist thing. I
Mhm.
think I can't speak to the UK.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the UK is worse than the United States. But in the United States, the left has taken over completely.
Mhm.
It's a it's a entitlement state, it's
Right.
a welfare state, and now with the uncontrolled, out of control open border, which is a leftist policy, we have more and more people on the dole.
Right.
And that again is a function not of gender, but of the left.
Mhm.
I really truly believe that the left is destroying the United States of America. I'm assuming it's not doing a good thing to England either. Again, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the same. But the women are the ones that are voting for these policies.
Are they, or is it? So,
It's
what's your
it's
data?
it's single
What,
women, they're the biggest swing voters. And that's what I found when I was trying to talk to like men's rights advocates in the UK. It was basically that it's tough for them to get any things passed because women are the biggest swing voters in elections.
I don't know if
And I
that's
just I didn't think that was, I mean, if you look at the last election, it was like that it was when that was the biggest voting bloc that voted Democrat.
I don't know if that's true or not. I
Mhm.
just don't have the data. I don't know
Mhm.
if that's true or not. But what I will say, it's people who are voting for leftist policies across the board.
Mhm.
That's what's destroying. I don't know that it's a gender thing. I just don't. I really just don't
Yeah.
know. And I think it's a leftist thing. The left is, and this is going to turn into a political show,
Yeah.
but as a libertarian, I'm against any group that's trying to grow big government. And so, by the way, I think one of your policies would result in a huge growth in big government and putting people on the dole. We can get to that in a minute.
Okay. Okay, which go ahead.
Banning divorce.
Oh, I changed my mind on that actually.
Well, that's, well, wait a minute.
That one
So
I changed my
everything you
mind.
said,
Yeah, yeah.
wait a minute. Everything you, so what you're saying is everything
Mhm.
you said in the past is either untrue or doesn't bear the same amount of weight as the opinion that you're now carrying. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that I used to believe in banning divorce and then I decided that was a bad idea.
Uh-huh. And why is that?
Um I don't think you should force people to be together. I guess like I liked it in theory and then I thought about it more and I was just like, no, I know some people that are in some terrible marriages that just they would be miserable for a lifetime if they stayed together. You know, it's like yeah, that was kind of the thought process that I had.
Okay. So what you're saying, and I agree with you, but
Yeah.
what you're saying is people living together who are unhappy, taking away, enforcing that is no longer, is not, preserving that is no longer as important as protecting the family and protecting children. You're putting individual happiness above preserving the family, which I thought was one of your fundamental values. The family is the building block of society. Now you're
Yeah.
saying, no, it's personal happiness.
Yeah, I know it kind of conflicts a little bit if I'm being honest, but it's just
Conflicts a
So,
lot.
so
yeah.
you're one of those swinging voters then.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess. No, because I don't know. I've seen, especially like interviewing like doing the divorce documentary. It's like I'll interview guys that have been in a sexless marriage for like 5 years, right? Their
Get
wives
it?
gained like I think 80% of women gain 20 pounds in the first 5 years, something like that. You know, and I'm just like, and they're forced to do that for life. You know, so I know it
Hey,
kind of conflicts, but I changed my
I'm,
opinion on it.
listen,
Yeah.
throughout my 30-year career, I've been the last person to advocate for marriage. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. I
Yeah.
believe that humans are not hardwired for monogamy.
Yeah.
I believe that marriage is an institution that is based on a fantasy that you can love the same person for the rest of your life. And it's based on the idea that one person can be your best friend, can be your most passionate lover, can be your best guide, your best spouse. It's a fantasy. And it's also based on a 2,000, 3,000 year old practice. It was basically
Mhm.
a property exchange. I used to date, tell you a funny story. I used to date a travel nurse from Kenya. That was her culture. She was from the Kikuyu tribe. And she said to me one day, Ross, if you want to marry me, you have to give my father 100 goats. And I said, first, this is a true story. I said, first of all, John B, I'm never going to marry you. And second, I don't know where to get goats. And third, I ain't giving anybody 100 goats. So it was a property exchange. You
Mhm.
got the property of the wife, the woman, in exchange for getting some good, that was the dowry. It was something that was given to the family that you were marrying into. So it's all based on stuff that no longer, I think if you want to do it, great. But it's just not a choice I would ever make. I would only do it if I wanted to have children. And even then, I just have never been a
Yeah.
proponent of.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because my views have evolved a little bit. I would still say I'm pro marriage, but like I don't know how you could argue it's a natural institution if it's so hard for people to do. Like the data is just not on our side when you think about it. It's like what percent of people are happy after 50 years or like, and
I've only
even,
seen,
yeah.
I agree, Pearl. I've only seen 3 happy marriages. One is in my family, and the other 2 were between psychotherapists who told me, I said, how are you even possibly happy after 30 years of marriage? They said, we use our skills as therapists and we work on it every day and we don't have unrealistic expectations.
Mm.
So I'm glad you changed.
Yeah.
I'm glad you changed that.
But the issue is it's like I do think parents together is better for children, and it seems like all the issues in society come from single mother homes, you know.
Wow, that's, oh, no, hold all
Yeah.
of them?
Yeah.
All of them?
Okay, not
That's a
every not
gross, wait a minute. This is how you think. This is why
Yeah.
I don't like how you think,
Okay.
because this is not nuanced thinking, and you tend to way overgeneralize and not engage in nuanced thinking.
Yeah,
There's
but
a lot of issues
I
that are
guess, but
hurting
I guess in
society.
order to have conversations, we have to like speak in generalities. So I always
All
say I
right.
know there's exceptions, right? But it's like when you look at criminals and 80% come from single mother homes. When you look at school shooters, a lot of them tend to come from single mother homes. And then you look at single father homes, they fare almost the same as two parent homes. It's like you just kind of start to look, I look for patterns and trends.
I'm not in favor of I'm not in favor of single parenthood
Yeah.
when there's no hear me out. I'm
Okay.
not in favor of single parenthood where there's no possibility of the other parent participating in co-raising the child. I get what you're saying. If they just disappear, and I don't want to get you banned from YouTube entirely as well as demonetized,
Okay.
we could get into the cultural aspects of that. That's partially a cultural thing, and I'm
Right.
not going to get into it because that will get you kicked off YouTube. I don't want you to do that, but I think you know where I'm going with it.
No, I
Um,
actually I don't, but
okay,
like what the
all right.
culture talking about will get you kicked off.
There's certain cultures, I
Mhm.
can't name them for the sake of wanting to keep you on YouTube, where the prevalence of the mother or even the grandmother raising the child is
Oh,
far more prevalent than in
yeah.
other ones. And you know what I'm talking
Yeah, okay,
about.
I know.
So, okay, you know what I'm
Okay,
talking
yeah.
about,
Yeah.
right?
But so do you I guess because with the marriage thing, because my thought process was, it's better for the children. But I don't know. Then I started interviewing people in these miserable marriages. I was like, okay, I
Well,
might need to second
it's
guess
not
this
necessarily,
opinion. Go ahead.
yeah, it's not necessarily better for the children because if you think about it,
Yeah.
and you're right about something. I would watch you in an interview and you corrected someone quite accurately.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of domestic violence that happens in families. 25% of it, both partners are being abused. Both
Mhm.
partners are being violently abused. That's not good for children to watch either. That's not something that
Yeah.
children should be watching. So that's an argument again that family isn't necessarily the best way to go either. Uh, and and you can't assign, and I didn't hear you assign it,
Mhm.
but you can't assign all the blame to women. I look, I God, I got to be careful. I don't want my family to watch this and be pissed at me.
Mm.
I happen to know male relatives in my immediate family
Mhm.
who are serial cheaters, right?
Mhm.
And who cheated in their marriages. So men cheat in marriages. I don't know that you can show they cheat any more or any less than women do. A lot of, again, I'm going to say this overall, my view of you, Pearl, is a lot of the things that you ascribe to moral failings on the part of women are human characteristics that go across all genders.
Mhm.
There's no data to suggest otherwise.
Mhm.
And so, one of my objections to you, I don't know whether you're doing it to be a provocateur. If you are,
Mhm.
more power to you.
Mhm.
I started my career by saying things like, you don't get laid, I don't get paid, saying things like for women,
Mhm.
getting sex is a choice, for men, getting sex is a chore.
Mhm.
But the difference is, I really believed what I was saying.
Mhm.
I was saying the truth through being in a provocative way. I honestly don't know whether you say things to provoke. I really don't know. I'm not saying that you do,
Mhm.
or whether you're saying things that you really believe in a provocative way.
Mhm.
I just don't know. So like when you say things like, and I assume maybe I'm wrong, but like women have, it's a general red pill thing. Maybe you didn't say it,
Mhm.
that women have the dark triad things, narcissism, solipsism,
Yeah.
sociopathy.
No, I don't say I do think women are more narcissistic than men. I
Not
know
true.
there may be literature that says otherwise, but just in my personal experience, I think that women are significantly more narcissistic. I I think
Okay,
I think filters, women are starting to think they actually look like they're filters. Like I swear to
that's
God,
true.
when I go on social media, okay, and I say younger women are more attractive than older women. You know what I get? I get married 37-year-old mothers tweeting at me their selfies, proving to me that they are the epitome of hotness. My
Okay,
God, these always get millions of views. Now,
hey,
if I do
my
men
last
are broker than women like rich men, I don't get men tweeting at me that they're poor and they can still get women. I don't see it. I don't think we live in reality because I don't think men ever really correct us.
Okay. I'm going to, first of all, what
Yeah.
you did is deflect. That was a nice deflection. It was a true deflection. What you said is true, but you deflected. So let
Okay.
me get back. I'm really good at rhetoric. I'm really good at argumentation.
Okay.
So you deflected. You said women are more narcissistic than men. So here's the science. The
Mhm.
science, and this is a review published in the Psychological Bulletin 2015, drew on 365 sources,
Mm.
including journal articles, dissertations, technical manuals, blah, 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 showing that aspects of that narcissism is more common in men than women. And further, it showed that antisocial personality disorder is more common in men than women. Now, you can have your personal observations,
Mhm.
but your personal observations are what we call in science
Mhm.
a distorted reading of an inadequate sampling.
Okay.
Science, and I told you I'm pro science and pro clear thinking, is designed to prevent that. It's designed to prevent distorted readings and inadequate samplings.
Mhm.
You can have your personal opinion,
Mhm.
but it's just a personal opinion based on a very small sampling. I'm telling you, the scientific research
Mhm.
shows that you're just not correct. You just
Yeah.
aren't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, I I still think that women are more narcissistic. So I don't know,
Well,
you
that's
know.
like saying, Pearl,
Yeah.
with respect,
Mm.
that's like saying, I still think that the sun goes around the earth, even though astronomy shows otherwise.
Mhm. Well, I don't know because, I just think people can make up studies that say anything. And it's like they want
I
you to
don't,
not they want
okay,
you to not believe what's in front of your own eyes. And that's just kind of
okay,
how I see it, you know? Go ahead.
okay. This is a meta data study from over
Mhm.
355 sources. 355 sources in a meta analysis are not going to make up are not going to make something up. That's not how science works.
Okay.
I'm sorry. This is a point. If you want to have that as your view, you can,
Okay.
but it's anti-science and it's contrary to the facts. I'm not anti-Pearl. I admire. Listen to me. I meant it when I said I admire your work ethic.
Mhm.
I believe you went from 5,000 viewers to close to 2 million.
Mhm.
That's a lot. Can I swear on your show? I don't want to
Yeah, you
swear.
can swear. It's fine.
That's a fucking load of work.
Mhm.
That's a ton of discipline. That takes vision. That takes dealing with setbacks like being unfairly demonetized.
Mhm.
I admire your hard work. And I also think you're anti-science and you don't do nuanced thinking. I just
Okay.
do. It's just evident to me
Mhm.
from not only listening to you here, but watching your videos.
Mhm.
And this is also part of Red Pill.
Mhm.
This is my objection to Red Pill.
I don't know.
Red Pill.
I don't know if I'm red pill because I don't know. They I don't like to like identify as. Oh shoot, sorry. I like identify as it because people get mad and I don't know. I just I just kind of give my opinions. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I finished. I made my point.
Okay. You said you don't think men value purity. Why do you think that?
Okay, hold on just a minute. That's a little bit of a misquote. Well, first let's unpack. What
Okay.
specifically in any kind of intelligent discussion, we have to define our terms. So what do you mean by, I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
what do you mean by purity?
Um, well, I just have a list of the things you wanted to talk about, and that was number 2.
Okay.
What
All
so
right. Then let's
so
talk
I
about
don't
that. What I
know.
meant, all right. So
Okay,
what I
good.
meant is, I don't even know what purity means, but you also said men want virgins. That's my real point of contention.
Yeah.
This idea that men want virgins, maybe if you're a religious nutbag and
Mhm.
you and if you have sex before marriage, you'll offend Jesus
Yeah.
because God doesn't want you putting your pee-pee into a woo-woo before there's a ceremony.
Mhm.
In Yiddish, they say no chuppah, no shtuppah. Chuppah is the marriage thing that you stand under, and shtuppah is to screw.
Mhm.
There's not, this is the view of religious, this is like if you're a religious Catholic or Orthodox Jew, or God forbid,
Mhm.
a a fundamentalist Islamist radical like a Taliban who would kill a woman if she's not a virgin uh, before she's married. This idea that men want virgins is completely nutty. Where you're drawing it from, I don't know. Where are you
Yeah.
getting that?
Um, you know, what's funny? I'm sorry. It's kind of interesting because I don't know. The last couple of months, my views have evolved a little bit. So, so I know I don't mean to like switch up. I'm not doing this just because you're here. But the last couple of months, because I do think I came from a bit of like a religious worldview, and some of that's kind of crashed the last couple months, to be honest,
Good,
because it just
should.
doesn't line up. I mean, I think men want in general women that are more pure rather than a whore. I would say it's like most guys don't want to date a chick with OnlyFans. Most guys don't want to
Well,
date it.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
But OnlyFans, how big a slice of the female population are OnlyFans women? Now, it may be true that there are
Mhm.
more OnlyFans girls than there are teachers, which is I don't know that's true. It sounds right. When you say
Yeah.
that, you're probably right.
Hmm.
But how big of a slice of the female population are OnlyFans? Very small. So
Right.
again, you're using a straw man argument by looking at a distorted reading of an inadequate sampling. This is part of how you think. It's
Hmm.
part of the reason why you're here. I'm here
Hmm.
not to be anti-Pearl, but to be pro-clear thinking
Hmm.
and to be pro-clear science. So yes,
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to be with some
Yeah.
prostitute or a porn star and only, but that's a very, very, very small percentage. Now, you're right about another thing.
Hmm.
You're right. I wouldn't want to be with someone who has a super high body count.
Hmm.
Number one, because of the possibility of disease. In my case, that's not a problem because I always make sure a partner is tested. If a partner is not tested and
Hmm.
shows me the lab results and the current date, they don't get into my bed.
Yeah.
And the second thing is someone who has a high body count either is suffering a lot of serious trauma
Hmm.
or or the other way around, a high body count will prevent them from having the ability to properly pair bond. And I don't want someone like that, particularly at my age. I'm 65. I'm not looking
Hmm.
to do a bangarang. I went through those days when I just created speed seduction. My openness is to a life partner who doesn't want to sign that piece of paper.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that, but I don't know. The what actually I found? I found that virgins nowadays have such bad personalities that sorry, this is going to be anecdotal, so I'm sorry, but I found that virgins nowadays it's like a lot of times they have nothing else. And so men like find that they come with other issues. Um yeah.
While you're changing your mind on this, you're opening yourself up to Rabbi Ross and saying you change your mind on divorce, you change your mind on
Well,
this,
I
you
think
change your mind on that.
I think men want more pure women. Like I don't disagree with that. I think you don't think the ideal would be a virgin. I'm curious as to like why.
Fuck no. Virgins are
Like
crappy
why
in
would you
bed.
want a guy like a girl?
Crappy. Hold
Sorry, go
on.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead,
You
go
asked me a
ahead. Yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah, go
Please
ahead.
permit me to answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Virgins are crappy in bed. They don't know what they're doing. They sit there. Forgive me. I've been inadvertently with a few virgins. They sit
Mhm.
there, and this sounds horrible. They sit there, they lay there, they take it, and they bleed all over me. I
Mhm.
don't want any part of it. Why? What value is there in being a virgin? Maybe you're Catholic and believe in the Virgin Mary, but that's the only virgin I see.
Mhm.
If I were Catholic, that has any value. What is the value? Now I know the biblical thing. The biblical thing is that virgins had more inherent value because you knew that if you had a child with
Mhm.
that person, it wasn't someone else's child
Right.
back in the day. And they were viewed as property. They were just viewed as worth 1,000 goats instead of 100 goats.
Mhm.
There's no reason why, from the perspective of any man.
Mhm.
Now, that's not to say that some of my students haven't wanted that. You have to understand, I've seen the whole gamut, 30
Mhm.
years, tens of thousands of guys teaching them how to have choice and power and selectivity with a woman. I've only had one student who really wanted a virgin. I'll never forget him.
Really?
Yeah, his
Wow.
name was Tom. Tom's good Catholic boy. He wanted to lose his virginity on his wedding night,
Yeah.
but he knew he had to date a lot of women to find someone who would make a good partner.
Mhm.
So Tom, I taught him how to attract women and to have selectivity and choice. But I've only, again, this is anecdotal, but it's a huge sampling. It's like
Yeah.
tens of thousands of people. What, Pearl, I asked you,
Mhm.
really, objectively, setting the biblical religious part aside,
Mhm.
what is the value in someone being a virgin?
I guess I would say you don't. I mean, like, how do I put it? Like, you don't want a girl that has exes to go back to, but I guess maybe with social media, it kind of switches things a little bit.
I'm
Um,
confident enough in my
yeah.
ability to attract and hold a woman
Mhm.
because I know speed seduction. I'm confident enough that a woman is not going to go back to an ex because I know how to evoke. I'm serious. I'm not
Yeah.
joking. I know how to evoke those emotional states. I know how to give her the emotional states, the emotional highs, and the emotional lows that she's not going to find anywhere else.
Mhm.
She may leave me because she feels that she's just unfulfilled, and people grow apart. Listen, I have a proclivity for dating much younger women.
Mhm.
The last woman I dated was 43 years younger. Some people may go, that's gross, that's sick. I say, no, that is a natural male tendency to value beauty and youth.
Don't
All
say it
right.
on X, they'll tweet selfies.
Well, I'm not on X. I don't like social media because I think social media is contributing to the destruction of Western civilization. We can get to that if you want to.
Okay.
But nonetheless, she outgrew me.
Mhm.
She just after 2 or 3 years, she just became a different person.
Mhm.
Look, a person's brain isn't fully formed until they're 25. The person they are at 19, this is the danger of dating someone who's really younger. I do it because it's worth it to me. But the danger is their brain is going to mature. They're going to be a different person. This is also the problem with the notion of marriage lasting forever. The person you marry when you're 20, I don't think people should get married that young. They know their ass from their elbow. They're going to be a different person when they're
Yeah,
25 or
they
when they're
are.
30.
Yeah.
Their view is going to. My sister, I'm not going to say which one, was very happily married for a long time, and then she said, my vision of what I wanted our life to be like grew apart. I spoke to her husband, her ex-husband, who had nothing but great things to say about my sister.
Mm.
And he said, look, I'll always love your sister. She's an amazing woman, but our vision grew apart. I wanted more children. She didn't. People grow apart. So if you're going to go after younger women, I teach how to do this.
Mhm.
It's one of my favorite things that my guys like to learn. I also warn them of the dangers of doing it. So, Pearl, you're right.
Mhm.
I don't agree with you about virginity, but you
Mhm.
sure are right as rain when it comes to men want youth and men want beauty.
Mhm.
Now, when you tell modern feminazis this, and I'm not a feminist, I said this at the very beginning,
Mhm.
here's where they're delusional. They don't want to believe it. They're insulted by hearing it, and you're right to stand up to it at the danger of being censored.
Mhm.
I've seen this over and over and over again. This young woman who I dated, who was 18 when I started dating her, her mother was in her 40s and said, I'm going to go have hot girl summer. When she had a 30-pound pot belly, she had a nose piercing. You don't have a nose piercing when you're in your 40s. So I get it. It's not that I disagree with everything you say. It's, I think a lot of what you say, I honestly, Pearl, I'm doing my best to look in you in the eye virtually. I don't know how much of this you really believe and how much you're provoking. And there's nothing, I started my career as a provocateur, as someone who provoked people to build a following. It wasn't on social media. It was through TV shows, chat shows, as you would say in Britain. So I know a provocateur when I see one, and I'm looking at one.
I get this a lot. I know people always say that to me, that they don't think I believe the things I say. I
Do
really,
you?
no, I really do. I don't know why people always say that. I do change my opinions at times, so I'm
What
kind
does
of a,
that tell
I'm
you?
what?
If you change your radically, it's not like you change your opinion. Like I like polka dots. I don't like
Yeah.
polka dots. If you're changing fundamental opinions
Mhm.
like divorce should be
Yeah.
banned, things like that, and the idea about purity and et cetera, if you're changing fundamental views, what are you going to do? Do you, as a huge voice, someone
Mhm.
has a huge following, have a responsibility to go back to all those people
Mhm.
who have been convinced to hold those views by
Mhm.
you, and now go back and somehow communicate to all of them and say, you know what, I misled you unintentionally.
Mhm.
It wasn't intentional, but I misled you. I led you to a view that is not the most healthy one.
Mhm.
Will you take responsibility for that as someone who has a giant voice? Can you take responsibility for that?
Mhm. What do you mean by responsibility? You want me to go say
Can you
sorry? Like, do you
somehow,
want me to say
can you
sorry
somehow,
for
can you
yeah.
somehow,
Mhm.
can you somehow put out a significant number of videos where you say,
Mm.
you know what, guys, I changed my mind. Don't follow my previous advice. Is there a
I
way for you
don't
to do
yeah, but I
if there,
guess I guess I wouldn't look at it as advice before. Like, I wouldn't say if I think divorce should be banned, that's like telling you how to live, you know? I mean,
isn't
that's
it?
just
It's worse than that.
no, but that's just a
It's big government.
that's just a
It's big
policy
government.
that I that I used to think, but it's not
Well,
like any policies changed because I said that, you know?
yeah, but when you advocate for it, when you
Mhm.
used to advocate it up
Yeah,
until God knows how when,
yeah,
that's a government policy.
yeah.
That would
Well,
have to be
yeah, I
enforced.
get sorry, go
That
ahead.
grows government.
Mhm,
That grows government. And
mhm.
to that extent, you're the very opposite of the conservative you claim to be. Conservatives don't want to grow big government. The more that you
Yeah,
take the government and you make a law that affects individual people, the
mhm,
more you're growing government power. As a libertarian and a true conservative, I find that repellent.
yeah.
And this is where I think you honestly don't see how some of the things you advocate for would lead to bigger government.
Yeah. No, I understand the marriage one. I really changed my mind on the divorce thing. I've seen too much, I guess. Um, but I I guess I wouldn't really look at it as advice. It was just kind of my thoughts at the time, you know.
You're underestimating your power. You're underestimating, this is both a compliment, I don't know if it's a criticism. You're
Mhm.
underestimating your power as someone who's an incredible influencer,
Mhm.
who people take your word as being not just your opinion, but as
Mhm.
being true with a capital T. I
Mhm.
know these dangers because my students look up to me as a guru. I've been called the sex messiah of the nerds.
Right.
My students, if you ever can, I don't do seminars anymore. I do the AI thing. And if you want to pay me 50 grand to
Mhm.
come for a weekend, I'll think about it. But the thing is I had to learn that my students wanted someone to obey. I surrounded myself with people. This is true.
Mhm.
I knew that that was a danger. I knew that my own little bit of narcissistic tendencies that would turn into a poison for me.
Mhm.
So I surrounded myself with people who would say, hey, Ross, you're full of shit. You're way out of bounds.
Mhm.
These people are looking up to you as their guru. You better let them know that this is just your opinion.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to say to you is I think you're underestimating the power of your voice.
Mhm.
You may indeed just be giving your opinions,
Mhm.
but the incels, and I think a lot of your audience, I can't prove it, are incels
Okay.
who listen to you are taking it as the gospel, are taking it
Mhm.
as the truth. And
Mhm.
I think to that extent, you're underestimating your power. And as my favorite philosopher, Spider-Man, said, with great power comes great responsibility.
Mhm.
So if you had that power and it influenced people to take it as the truth,
Mhm.
I think on some way, and I don't know how you do it, you have the responsibility to make it very, very clear
Mhm.
that your opinions have changed. Not just say it once or twice in a short, but
Mhm.
make it very clear to those people that they're now off base because of what you said prior, that
Mhm.
they took to be true. I know, I believe you. I can read body language, I can read facial expressions. When you say that you view it just as your opinions,
Mhm.
I get it. But majority of the people watching you
Mhm.
don't. They view it as true.
But why would they view it? It's not like you're God. I mean, you give your opinions, I give my opinions. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
but
every person gives their opinions based on,
that's a
their
function.
yeah,
That's a function of the
cuz
psychology of your audience. I'm
yeah.
willing to bet, and again, this isn't science.
Mhm.
I don't know. This is my intuitive read. I could be wrong.
Mhm.
My guess is a huge portion of your audience are men who are pissed off at women
Mhm.
because they're not getting any. They're incels, and they're far more likely to take your opinions as true with a capital T because they're very emotionally charged in the way they look at you.
Mhm.
That's just my take. I am actually saying to you
Mhm.
that your voice has more power than you think. It's not just giving, and as you grow more famous,
Mhm.
and good on you that you are growing more famous,
Mhm.
because that's your hard work. I don't agree with a lot of your opinions. I
Mhm.
don't agree with your thinking, which is often unnuanced,
Mhm.
but good on you because you're doing it through a hell of a lot of hard work and through continuing to grow your skills as a provocateur. Good on you.
Mhm.
But the bigger your audience grows and the more persuasive you become,
Mhm.
the more people are going to take it as less being only your opinion. They're going to take it as being true.
Mhm. Okay. Um, so you said that you think men are equally, oh, we talked about the narcissistic. So women are not more emotional than men. Why do you think that?
Yeah. Okay. This is nuanced thinking.
Okay.
So allow me to be nuanced
I'm
here.
gonna I'm gonna adjust a chord really quick, but I'm gonna let
Okay.
you go just 1 second.
All right.
Hold on.
This is fun.
This
I love
chair,
this.
this chair has like died on me. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Okay, so you think that women are not more emotional than men?
Yes. So let's parse that out and do some nuanced thinking here. There's emotional experience and there's emotional expression.
Okay.
Okay. My observation, and again, it's not science, is that men and women experience emotions equally. If we didn't have emotions, we wouldn't survive as a species.
Mhm.
But emotional expression is far more likely to come out of a woman's mouth than a man, because men are socialized that to not talk about it. We are
Mhm.
told, again, I don't want to swear in your show. Can I say the P word? Um,
I don't know. Will that
you
one
under-
get us? No, don't say that one. I'm trying to get
okay.
remonetized.
Men are
Yeah, yeah,
called
yeah.
P bleep if they express. So
Mhm.
women tend to be more emotionally expressive and more explosive in their emotional expressions. That's number one.
Mhm.
So make a distinction between emotional experience and emotional expression. But the second thing, and this is my observation, both from dating tons of women and working with tens of thousands of men, literally, not as a marketing thing. I think that men and women are equally emotional. And this is a perspective I guarantee you've never heard before,
Mhm.
and nor is your audience. So listen up. Men tend to be linear in our emotions. When we're angry, we're angry. When we're sad, we're sad. When we're aroused, we're aroused. When we're happy, we're happy. Women's emotions are what we call recursive. They have emotions about their emotions. A
Mhm.
woman could be attracted, but she could be curious about her attraction. She could be ashamed of her curiosity about her attraction. She could be proud of her shame. You understand? Women have
Yeah,
emotions
sort of.
about their emotions. And so this looks like crazy. Not to say that a lot of women aren't batshit crazy,
Mhm.
but this looks like crazy because we're running on different operating systems.
Mhm.
Just as a metaphor, men are running on Mac, and women are running on Windows. So it looks like crazy because we're expressing as males in a linear way. Women are expressing in a recursive way, which means in a loop,
Mhm.
emotions about emotions. But the third thing is women are more emotionally unregulated than men. And by unregulated, I mean they're more likely to be triggered. They're unable to self soothe. They don't know how to calm themselves down. And they don't know how to finally take on a different perspective. They don't, I think this is not taught in society. No one even knows about emotional regulation. It should be taught in schools along with
Mhm.
financial literacy.
Mhm.
So men and women have express emotions differently. They experience them differently. And finally, women are told that if they're emotionally unregulated and are expressing it that way, that means they're feminine. They're defined, their femininity, they're told, well, this is your divine femininity.
Oh
When you
God.
get hysterical,
Oh
that's being
God.
feminine.
God, I
And then they
hate divine
resent us as
feminine.
men.
Yeah.
They resent us as men when we don't value it.
So
So,
sorry, I have
yeah,
a question. Do you think that's because like, do you think that's because women are not taught to do that and we're just like, or do you think that's more a biological thing?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think I think it's both. I think no one's taught to emotionally regulate. I went through 2 years of something called DBT, dialectical behavior therapy,
Mhm.
that teaches incredible tools to emotionally regulate. But no one knows about these tools. But partially it's biological, not always. I've dated a lot of women, some of them when they're on their period or when they're ovulating, they go nuts. We don't have that problem as men.
Yeah.
Our testosterone levels may rise and fall
Mhm.
during any given month, but that's for sure. But it's not their fault.
Mhm.
It is their responsibility to not act out on it in a way that drives their man crazy, because I don't want to be around that.
Okay, so sorry, I'm trying to understand that. So, can you explain what you said about the women like change like could you explain that one more time? I don't think I get it.
Which part?
The part about the difference in like men and women doing like do having like how you think men are just as emotional. You said like they express it
Okay, I'll
differently.
say it again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Men have our emotions in a linear fashion. When we're angry, we're angry.
Mhm.
When we're sad, we're sad. When we're aroused, we're aroused. When we're happy, we're happy. Have emotions about their emotions. A woman can be turned on, but she could be ashamed of her being turned on.
Mhm.
She could be curious about her shame about being turned on.
Mhm.
She could be happy about her curiosity, about her shame about being turned on. They run in loops rather than going linear and running straight.
Oh.
Does
That
that make
actually no,
sense
that makes a
now?
lot of sense actually. Yeah,
That's
because
an insight.
it's like we'll have the initial emotion and then we'll almost like react to it and then have a
Yes.
different emotion and then feel guilty or
Yes.
feel happy. Oh, that makes a lot of sense
Yes.
actually. I've never thought about
Yes.
it that way.
Well, I am a breakthrough revolutionary thinker. I come from a very, very smart family, and I'm not the smartest one in my family. The women, I hate to tell you, are the smartest
I
ones in the
doubt it.
family. They're also the
It's
most
like
successful. It's true. And look
Yeah.
at you. Look how successful you are. By
Yeah,
the
but
way,
I talk in a microphone. I mean, it's not
yeah,
like
but you're, Pearl,
Yeah, go
don't be
ahead.
falsely modest. You're very successful. Now, as a matter of fact, let me ask you this, being
Mhm.
consistent, I want to challenge you on consistency. I don't want to be mean about it. I've seen people be very mean and also be mean to you when they're not even in your presence, which is a double cheap shot. They're cheap shotting you and they're making it a double cheap shot because they don't give you an opportunity to respond.
Mhm.
So let me ask you this. Would you, as a very intelligent and successful woman,
Okay.
and would you give up your right to vote?
If all the other girls are going with me. Not by
Really?
myself. Yeah, no, I just think women are always gonna vote for abortion. Like, I just think that's always what they
Are,
do before. No, that's
whoa.
always every election season, there's always some 13-year-old that can't get an abortion, they run it, or like Roe versus Wade or something that
13-year-olds, what reality are you living in where 13-year-olds can vote? First of all.
No,
Second,
I'm saying it's like a news story. So like there's always something before the elections. I've just noticed it, all right? Or some sob story that gets us running to the polls.
with all due respect,
Mhm.
Pearl, you're not paying attention to politics in the United States because the right wing Christian voting bloc
Mhm.
it's an odd paradox. It's either the left wing liberal loonies or the right wing Christian evangelist vote that swings elections, and they are all totally anti abortion.
Mhm.
And they want to some of them want to give women jail time.
Well,
So I don't, again,
mhm.
I'm ignorant
Yeah.
of politics in England. I don't know how it works there.
Mhm.
But here in America, I know you were born in Chicago, right? I don't know
Mhm.
when you left.
Mhm.
Here in America, the right wing Christian vote that's radically anti abortion and pro life is controlling things. They have a tremendous amount of power. And so I think that's not entirely true what you said.
Even if you look at like maps of the last 100 years, if like if women didn't vote, it would always be conservative. And I'm not saying that's the reason. Like it still goes back to I don't think I don't know how you would apply it practically. So I guess that's probably where you're going to keep going. Like how would you apply it? But I don't think it's fair that people that don't pay taxes still get the same say as the people that do. Like I think you have to have some skin in the game. The people that are doing the infrastructure jobs have the same or that aren't doing the infrastructure jobs have the same say as the people that are doing it.
So what you're saying to me
Mhm.
is that by that reason,
Mhm.
people who pay less taxes, regardless of their gender,
Mhm.
shouldn't be voting. Men who are not net
Oh yeah,
taxpayers
no. Oh,
shouldn't be voting.
I've said this too. I just think
Okay, so wait a minute.
I just think women are the
Isn't
first
that
one.
fundamentally anti-democratic?
I think women are the first ones that gotta go. I don't
Isn't
know.
that isn't that fundamentally? See, that's why I have to call you out. That's
Yeah.
fundamentally a statist. Almost, I don't want to use fascist because that's an overused word,
Mm,
but it is a authoritarian and anti-democratic way of doing things. If
mm,
you are affected by the laws, I would say if the laws are not going to be applied to you, then you don't have to vote. But if you have to
mhm.
follow the laws, then you should have a say in the government, whether
I
you
don't
pay
know.
taxes or not.
Look
That's
at.
number one.
Mhm.
Number two, by your reasoning, it's no longer a gender thing. It's no longer women shouldn't vote.
Well, I think
It's
they should
who
go
are not
first.
tax. If I could finish,
Yeah, sorry. Mhm.
I've been very polite to you. By your reasoning, it's not women who shouldn't be allowed to vote. It's people who are not net taxpayers should not be allowed to vote. So it's no longer a gender thing. And
Yeah.
it's impossible to enforce. You're
Yeah.
not going to be able to give look at everybody's tax returns. My whole thing is a libertarian,
Mhm.
little government as possible. If you're subject to the rules and the laws of the government,
Mhm.
then you have a right, you have the fundamental, fair, basic human right to participate in that and have some say in what those laws are going to be.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it becomes a dictatorship. And I don't like dictatorships.
Well, but I guess how would you combat the people that just keep voting for benefits and like they vote for things that kill the entire system,
You
you know?
change, you change the laws at a higher level and say, we just don't allow for these benefits. You can vote
Yeah.
all you like. You change the laws. You change the laws. and you go to the courts and say, this is fundamentally unconstitutional to rob Peter to pay Paul. Again, I'm a
Yeah.
libertarian. I don't like the idea of wealth transfers. I believe taxation fundamentally is theft. I believe the draft is a form of involuntary servitude. It's a form of slavery. My political views are pretty radical and actually
You think
consistently.
you think it's a form of slavery?
It's involuntary servitude to take someone against their will, and essentially make them property. Now, if you want to volunteer, that's a different story. But yeah, I think it's essentially a form of involuntary servitude. It violates the 13th Amendment. But now we're diving into politics and constitutional law.
No, I was just curious. I've never heard that before, so I was just curious.
Listen, I may be a genius, but I'm also bat bleep crazy. I'm the first person to admit it. And some of my views are off the wall.
Huh. That's interesting. I've never heard that one. You don't think the media caters to women? Why do you think that?
The media caters to the left and now to anti-Semites. I'm Jewish, and there's a wave of anti-Semitism going everywhere. The media caters to the left. It now caters to wokeism. I'm the most anti-woke person you can imagine. And let me define the disgusting aspects of this disgusting thing called woke. First of all, it's the idea that feelings are more important than facts, that the degree to which you've been oppressed or have suffered determines your merit. I'm a child of the 60s. Back in the 60s, I know I'm a dinosaur, but each of these gray hairs is a silver strand of wisdom that you can learn from. Okay. Back then, when I was a child, things went by merit. You were awarded according to what you could produce, what you could achieve. We were taught, I was taught, my whole family was taught by our parents, do your best, keep your word, be generous to others, show others basic respect. Those values are now laughed at. So wokeism is the idea that feelings are more important than facts, that the group that you belong to is more important than what you do as an individual, and the degree to which you've suffered is the degree to which you earn merit. And furthermore, if someone offends you, that should be a crime. In Canada, I know because I have Canadian friends. In Canada, it's actually hate speech if you don't use someone's, and I think this is BS too. I don't want to get you demonetized. I agree with your opinions on this. If you don't use someone's preferred pronouns, it's a hate crime. So this is, what does that say? Nova Scotia. Oh, you're Canadian? Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. And I don't know where this is going or how that tangent came out.
Well, no, it was just one of the things that it said you wanted to talk about, the media. But so
the media caters to the left, and the media is captured. The media is a captured group of corporations. It's captured by big pharma. In England and in Europe, you're not allowed to advertise pharmaceuticals. Here in the United States, if you put on Fox, CNN, which I call the communist news network, Fox, CNN, News Nation, any of these cable news shows, every 3 minutes you see an ad for a pharmaceutical. New Abrevia may cure your emphysema, but side effects, death, 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 death. It's so the media is captured by big pharma, and it caters to the left. There's a small subsection that caters to women and says that women are victims and men are all horrible things. I agree with you on this stuff. This horrible trope of toxic masculinity. If you believe in toxic masculinity, then the next time you're being robbed, hope that a woman policeman shows up. Not that women shouldn't serve on the police force.
Oh, I think that. No,
right?
If I call the cops and a woman comes, I'm suing. I'm suing.
Well,
I'm so mad.
Hey, I happen to have a dear friend who's a motorcycle cop in San Diego. She could kick most men's ass. she's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
I also think that, and this is fact,
Mhm.
I would want a male and a female officer showing up. The male officer can handle it if it turns violent. Female officers are better at de-escalating situations. So I think there's a place for both. But my major point is the media caters to the left, and it's captured in the United States by big pharma. And also the media, now we're talking about social media.
Mhm.
Social media has created I said this once in a talk, not regarded to seduction, but regarded to the sales training part of my business, because that's part of what I've done is transition to teaching seduction for sales. I said the entire Western civilization is orbiting around the dark star of narcissism and ADHD. And I think social media has done that. Social media has increased narcissism. Everyone shows how great their life is, how beautiful their boobs are, their new dress.
You don't think social media affects women more, though?
How do you mean, Pearl? In what sense?
Like, as in, I just see women being much more into social media than men. Do you think that's not true? Like, I see women, maybe I'm biased because these women keep tweeting their selfies at me. But I just see, like, women are on their phones more. Women are building brands more.
You're right about building brands.
Yeah.
I don't know that on their phones more. And they're going to tweet selfies to you because you're an attractive young woman. Go with get used to it. Go with the territory, darling. Don't complain about the cost that comes with your benefit. Give up your beauty premium if you don't like what it costs. See what a flatterer I am. Look at you. You're blushing. I know. Hey, I know how to work a woman. But let me finish the point.
Mhm.
I think that this thing here, it's everywhere. I was out at breakfast at my favorite Mexican restaurant. I saw a family of 4 sit down. Mother, father, 2 kids. None of them were talking to each other. They all had the phone in their faces. This is addictive. This is a dopamine hit machine. It's designed and engineered to be addictive. So I think social media is destroying everybody, whether or not women are the primary users in terms of creating content. I don't know. I really don't know. You may be right. You may not be right. But I just think it's responsible for a lot of narcissism. Narcissism is, look, all of the United States, again, I can't speak for Britain, forgive me, and then I'll let you speak. I know you have something important to say. I can only speak for the United States, but this country is being destroyed by narcissism and ADHD and me, and everyone can be a Kardashian. Everybody wants to be famous. When I was a child, it was perfectly okay to be middle class, to work a 9-to-5 job, to have 1 car. You didn't need to be famous. You didn't need to be rich. Now we're sold a bill of goods. You think marriage is a bad bill of goods? Mm-hmm. What we're being sold as an ordinary life is an impossible bill of goods. It's designed. There's a book written in the 1920s by a guy named Edward Bernays, Bernays, called
really
Propaganda.
Oh, I know him.
Okay, so Bernays was the person who was responsible for getting women to smoke. He framed it as a form of freedom and liberation. And he also was the person to get Americans to eat bacon. Bacon is actually the fat on the back of a pig. Bernays said the purpose of all marketing is to get a person to compare themselves to others. And so this is what we have. We have a marketing society that's getting people to constantly feel like they're not enough. That leads to narcissistic focus on yourself. And because of this thing, it leads to ADHD. So the big overall picture, circling back, because I've been using my NLP skills to open and close loops on you, circling all back to the idea the media doesn't cater to women, the traditional media, it caters to the left. It gives women, social media gives women a better platform to get attention. I grant you that. But I don't think the media caters to women. I think it caters to the left. I think in that sense is extremely destructive. We hold similar political views on left-wing politics. I'm sure we do.
But I guess my point would be that if women are making 80% of consumer buying decisions, how can we say that like the ads aren't targeted towards women? That the media, because everyone's selling something.
First of all,
Hmm.
you may be right about that statistic. I would like to ask where you're pulling it from. How do you know that? You may be right. I'm
Hmm.
not saying you're wrong, Pearl. I'm asking what's your source.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but you can Google it. It's usually at the top of Google.
Okay, is that consumer goods? Is that major purchases like cars?
Hmm.
What is that? I'm asking for you, not attacking.
Hmm.
I'm asking for you to unpack it, to clarify it. What kind of buying
I
decision?
just know it's consumer buying decisions. I don't know the depth of it.
That could be household goods. That could
Mhm.
be it could be lesser expensive items. I don't
Yeah, but
know.
I guess, and even anecdotally, like I have a cousin that's a car salesman, right? And he'll always tell me that it's like the wife you have to get on board. And I've just heard similar stuff to that, like, my whole life pretty much.
That's usually,
Yeah.
hey, I also teach sales. Usually that's a smoke screen in a stall, and you have to do what I call a pattern interrupt. So if I'm
Mhm.
teaching sales training and someone says, I need to talk to my spouse using NLP, neurolinguistic programming, I would say, of course you do. It's important she also get on board with us so she can also see this is a great decision. So I'm reframing the whole thing that myself and the prospect already agree on it. It's just a matter of getting the wife on board to see it. I
Mhm.
think that's often a smokescreen.
Mhm.
But look, if you're making a major purchase that's going to affect family finances, probably both partners should be involved. This also gets to something else. I was in doing my research for this, and
Mhm.
again, this is only America. I can't speak to the UK.
Mhm.
40% of Americans are now relying on credit cards for just
Yeah.
basic survival needs.
Mhm.
That's telling me that both men and women are affected by a bad economy, and they're both making
Yeah,
poor
yeah,
decisions when
that's
it comes to
true.
money.
Mhm.
They're making poor decisions when it comes to money. It's not just women who are doing it,
Mhm.
it's men too, or you wouldn't see credit card debt like that
Mhm.
across all genders.
Mhm.
So does the media cater to women in terms of what they're marketing? I don't know. I see ads for sports cars with men driving them. The ads for beauty products, I'm sure that's catering to women.
Right.
So again, Pearl,
Yeah.
my challenge to you as an influencer as you move forward in your career, and I don't look, you're too good at what you do and you have too big a following for anyone to ever shut you down completely.
Mhm.
You'll have more challenges. My challenge to you
Mhm.
is if you want to grow a bigger audience, get a little bit more nuanced in your thinking. You already show up as extremely intelligent. If you want to intimidate people to the point where they don't even want to debate you, I mean this as an old grandpa giving a pseudo granddaughter advice. Take on the power and the discipline and being more nuanced in your thinking
Mhm.
because you'll have a lot more influence
Mhm.
and you'll duck the criticism. I've watched some of the uh, videos criticizing you, and they were pretty cruel. They made a point, though, that your thinking is often not nuanced.
Mhm.
And I think that's a maybe, and this sounds like I'm being condescending. I apologize for that if I am. You're also very young. You're not even 30 years old. So,
Mhm.
like you said, your opinions are changing. That's a good thing because your thinking is growing more nuanced. If you want to turn to Grandpa Ross for more advice on that, I'm always available for you. My fees roll out at 2,500 USD an hour, but I'll give
I'm
you a break.
demonetized. Could I get like a $5? The
No,
demonetized rate?
you've been demonetized, which I think is really sickening.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's really disgusting. People should be allowed to pay for what they want to see. But this again is censorship. This again is the idea that if you offend someone, you should be shut down. That is contrary to my libertarian views. I'm a libertarian through and through. I'm a free speech purist. Now, I don't like the idea that you brought Fuentes on because he's being Jewish.
Mm.
Holocaust deniers pain me. That hurts personally,
Mhm.
but you shouldn't have been attacked. You shouldn't. If were you demonetized for that, or
I don't know. I was really God. I was so mad about that whole thing, but yeah, because freaking yeah, no, that's not why they officially, but people have said to me they think it is, but I don't officially. They told me it's because I said Fanny, but with a T and an R.
got it,
Yeah.
got it.
So I don't know, but there's
Hey,
people that speculate that was why, but I don't actually know.
hey, I understand. I live in Hillcrest.
Yeah.
I live in San Diego. I live in Hillcrest. This is uh, the LGBTQ plus capital of San Diego.
Hmm.
And I generally am supportive of it. Where I'm not supportive of it,
Hmm.
I'm considered to be an ally, someone who supports their basic rights, and I do. Where I'm not an ally is where someone says, if you don't use my pronouns, I'm going to shame you over it. I will use someone's pronouns out of respect, out
Hmm.
of basic human respect. That's what my parents taught me.
Hmm.
But the minute you try to shame me or shut me down for not using them, then you're going to have a fight on your hands. And again,
Hmm.
um, I applaud you for walking that line, for
Hmm.
walking the line. You're learning, as I learned excuse me, had lunch and I'm old. I learned very early on well, I was outrageous. Oddly enough, Pearl, no one ever tried to cancel me. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because you don't pick on an old guy or I'm a legend. I am a living legend. I don't know. So I've never undergone that attempt to be canceled, and I hope they don't cancel you. I hope people just come on and challenge you as I've been challenging you.
Yeah, I mean they don't. It was because I was talking about I play volleyball in the UK, and so
Oh
basically,
wow.
yeah. So what happened?
Outside hitter? Were you
No,
outside hitter?
I'm a middle.
Middle blocker.
Hmm. But yeah, there was a tournament last year where they had like I said, it was like a team of fannies, if you catch my drift, that we had
A
to
team
like
of what?
of guys basically that we had to play
Got
against,
it.
and they were like
I
in our
get you.
locker room and stuff, and so I
I
was
get it.
talking about it, and then they demonetized me. So yeah, I mean,
I think you're right. I think
yeah, I
that's
know.
a horrible thing.
Yeah, but
A horrible.
what are you gonna do? Other than if the YouTube rep is watching, say please let me back in. Please
Hey,
God.
if YouTube reps are watching me, I'm not on YouTube. So,
Okay,
By the
well,
way, about that statistic, 70 to 80% of all consumer purchasing
mhm.
decisions are women. This is from Forbes. So yeah, that is correct. And there's another that's a general one, but a specific one. For example, 70% of travel consumers are women.
Thank you.
well, thank you for that. I stand corrected. I am someone who likes to learn. So if someone's got a better point, good on them. I just got educated. I love that. Anyone who can teach me something that I don't know has risen in my estimation. So good. Thank you, Ice. We'll talk about it later, you traitor.
Oh, fuck.
So I'm curious.
No, wait, Pearl,
Yeah.
one thing.
Mhm.
Before we went on the air, you said that you watched some of my videos and you liked some of my pickup lines, that they would totally work on you.
Oh
Sure.
yeah, yeah. Because I would have been so entertained if someone said they could tell me about my handwriting or something. You would one like that, and I was like, wow, that would. I was like I would stop. I would totally stop.
Remember, guys, I am the OG. Yeah, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No,
And
I was gonna ask you about the pickup stuff. So you've been doing it for
yeah,
30 years,
yeah, over 30 years. I wrote my first book in 1988.
and
So that you were on the last years of your previous lifetime, young lady, when I first got into this.
well, I was curious because you had some stuff about like conversation patterns.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you
Yes.
could like tell me about that, if you don't mind.
Sure. Sure. So what I teach my guys is don't have this. I want to make this distinction very clear. Don't ever lie, but don't have fact-based conversations. I'll give you an example. What's the difference between asking the question, what do you like to do for fun, which every chump has asked you,
Mhm.
and this question, when you want to do something that makes you feel totally alive and gets your heart beating hard and time flies by, what do you love to do? Or what's something you've always fantasized, dreamed of doing, but haven't let yourself dare? Now, those are two fundamentally different questions. One just seeks a factual answer,
Mhm.
ends the conversation. The other is designed to wake up a woman's emotions. It deals with themes of adventure, fantasizing, doing something that she doesn't ever dare to do. Do you understand how it evokes something completely different? Can you feel that and see it?
Yeah, I was thinking about the question. I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that, but it makes you think.
Yeah, it makes you think, and more importantly, given the right rapport, it makes you fantasize. Now, does it make you sexually fantasize? Not necessarily, but give this metaphor. Consider this metaphor. I've stayed in my travels in some pretty cheap hotels, motels, where the rooms are separated by just a thin wall. And if someone's partying in the room next to you, it's going to keep you up at night. Consider that part of a woman's mind that fantasizes about anything to be one room. And then in the other room is the room where she sexually fantasizes. If you can wake up that first room, chances are the noise is going to wake up the second. So that's one example. A second example is to, how can I put this? Is to tell stories in a way that evoke a woman's imagination. I'll give you a very simple one.
Mhm.
I will be out. I've used this to turn female friends into lovers. It's got 100% success rate. I shouldn't give it away, but I'm going to give it away, and it's going to offend a lot of women.
So
But
guys,
hell,
guys can't escape the friend zone.
guys can escape the friend zone. They
Okay.
can. So here's how it works. I'll meet a female friend for coffee. I'm 3 for 3 on this. 100% 3 for 3. I'll meet him for coffee and we'll just have a few laughs. And I'll say, hey, are you a people watcher? Now, the answer is 100% yes. Who doesn't like to watch people? And then what I'll do is I'll use a pattern called quotes. Quotes simply means I'll talk about what I saw someone else do. The usefulness of quotes is if they don't like what I said, I can back up and say, hey, I didn't say it. That's just what I saw someone else do. So here's the story I tell them. I say, me too. I was in this place the other day, excuse me, and I saw a couple on a bad date. Now, the way I could tell they were on a bad date is they obviously weren't able to feel that incredible connection. That click right there, those butterflies that let you know something big's going down. Instead, her body language was turned away. She was checking through her phone.
Mhm.
You see how I'm building up the story and I'm betting and talking about little things like feeling a connection
Mhm.
and feeling butterflies. So I'm building up the story and I say, but all of a sudden, things took a 180 and you won't believe what happened, Pearl. And naturally, you will say, what happened? It's creating curiosity. Now I'm drawing you even further into the conversation. I'm creating curiosity. I'll say, well, all of a sudden, he just rubs the back of her neck like this. Now, the back of the neck happens to be a very erogenous zone. Most people don't know it. He leans over and he whispers something in her ear. And all of a sudden, she's all over him. She starts macking on him. She's grinding on him. She gets up to go to the bathroom. And I walk over to the guy and say, first of all, dude, you're my hero, but you got to tell me, what did you say? And then I'm quoting the guy, mind you. So she's off her guard. She's not expecting anything, Pearl. Well, I just leaned in her ear. And as I say this to whoever I'm talking to, I'll lean in her ear. He leaned in her ear and said, "Can you imagine our first soft electric brush of the lips and all the things we're going to do to each other when we finally get each other alone?" I mean, honestly, did he really expect her to imagine that and feel compelled to? No.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's
And
really
you're
good too.
and you're 3 for 3 on it?
I'm 3 for 3 on it. But let me break out the structure of it. The
Okay, yeah.
structure of it is, first of all, I'm telling a story about somebody else. So it takes away any of the suspicion, any of the nervousness. Second, I'm talking about a theme that women are fascinated about. This is a generalization, which is good and bad dates. Everyone's seen a bad date. Everyone's seen a train wreck of a date. So naturally, they want to talk about it. Then I get attention by suddenly switching things up and saying how everything suddenly changed. That's going to create curiosity. Then I'm demonstrating the rub on the back of the neck. If you, somewhere on the internet, there's a YouTube video, and sincerely, I really am not trying to plug myself. If you search Ross Jeffries erotic touch,
Mhm.
you'll see me demonstrating it on a very hot young Swedish woman who I wound up sleeping with. By the way, thank you, Sweden. Sweden has been very good to me. So has Denmark. Anyway, that gets them turned on. And then when I lean over and whisper in their ear, every woman I did this to said, "I could feel the hot breath on my neck. I could feel your lips brushing against my ear." I can't say without getting you banned, but one of them said my bleep was bleep. The other one said I could feel my bleep tingling. And the other one said, "You are not my type, but I am so turned on right now." So this is just one of the ways. So those are two. I could give you a third if we have time. Excuse me for coughing, a little bronchitis. I was sick for 2 weeks. Is this giving you some idea of what I do?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And then for an actual pickup, here's some things I would use to teach guys to start a conversation. So I believe humor is a really great way to start a conversation with a woman, not being a clown. If a guy just keeps telling you jokes, you're going to walk away. You're going to get bored. You're going to think he's a weirdo, but using humor. Please give me the time to explain this, okay? Don't cut me off here. So I will do what I call a pre-opener. I'll just say nice shoes, or excuse me, do you mind if I reach for the milk? That's just designed to let her hear my voice and see I'm not going to harm her. And then I'll say, "Hey, I've got to ask, do you work for the Department of Defense?" And when she says no, I'll say, "Because your eyes are weapons of mass distraction." Now, when she laughs, I'm not going to leave it there. I'm not going to leave it at the laugh. I'm going to say, "Okay, that was cheesy. But when I saw you, I thought she probably gets approached 100 times a month. See if she has a sense of humor that would make her fun to talk to for a minute. So let me explain what I'm doing there. I'm getting the laugh, but then I'm owning it. I'm admitting that it was cheesy, and then I'm giving what I call an implied compliment. Notice why I didn't say Pearl. I didn't say you're so beautiful you get approached 100 times a month. That would be like, I implied the compliment. I said, she probably gets approached 100 times a month. Now, is that implying that she's a war pig, or is that implying that she's hot? It's implying that she's hot. So whatever you can get a person to imagine for themselves will be perceived by them as being their own thought, and it won't be resisted. It will be absorbed. And once it's absorbed, it'll be acted upon. Those are just 3 different examples of what I teach. I've been doing this 30 years. And if it didn't work, I would have been kicked out of business by now. There would have been complaints and I would have been booted. So that's just something. Did that give you some good representative examples?
Yeah, I'm curious, is what you teach like what they teach in modern day pickup, would you say?
No,
No,
no.
because I went to a
Modern
PUA. I
day,
went to a PUA boot camp a couple years ago, and it was really interesting. But I was curious if it would have been similar to what like you did.
no. Because PUA, there's 3 schools of PUA. One of them is from mystery method, and it
Yeah.
revolves around demonstrating higher value, negging a woman, throwing something that's part insult, part compliment, nonsense like that. I don't do that. My whole thing is, how can I use language to capture, lead, evoke, amplify the emotions that I want a woman to look at me through? That's the whole difference in orientation. The other aspect of speed seduction is healing. How can you get past your own trauma and build a state that's attractive, that's not traumatized? And the third part is learning from your mistakes. Look, in an area of life that's emotionally difficult, where you had a lot of challenges and a lot of failures, you can't expect to move logically up the learning curve. You're going to have places where you're looking at your possibility through the pain of your past. So I teach guys techniques to have a clear mind and to be able to quickly go up the learning curve and learn from their mistakes. Otherwise, you're just going to slide right back down because you're not going to see what you did right. My experience as a teacher and a trainer and a coach for 30 years has taught me that it takes discipline and training to see your wins. We are hardwired to look for what we did wrong. Your brain is not wired to make you happy. Your brain is wired to keep you safe, which means you're going to look at your errors. It goes against the stream to learn to look at your small wins. So being able to build a vision that's not dependent on your emotions or on the events of the day is one of the skills I teach. And that can be used in business and any area of life. That's a mouthful, but I'm a big talker.
So, what do you mean? Could you tell me more about, like, you said you teach them to have like a clear mind almost?
Yes. Yes. So ever since 2006, my mom, who to this day, I still love, she's alive in my heart. My mom died of liver cancer. It was a slow, painful death that I had to watch her go through.
Mm-hmm.
And right around then, I had the need, and my teacher showed up, my meditation teacher. He taught me Buddhist. I'm not a Buddhist, but the tools are very useful. He taught me something called vipassana, mindfulness meditation. And with mindfulness, you don't try to tighten up or turn away from the emotion, but you don't tell yourself a story. You don't feed the fuel the fire, so to speak, with stories about it. You allow yourself to experience the raw emotion as it expands, as it contracts, as it gets larger, as it gets bigger. And through that practice, I was able to get rid of the storytelling and just experience the emotion. So I teach my students. Well, I don't teach anymore. I do it all through the AI. But again, if they come out and pay me a bleep ton of money, I require my students to meditate, to do mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness is all the rage in psychology now, but I was doing it back in 2006. That has fundamentally changed my view of what it means to be human and how I walk through the world. It's taught me a little bit. I'm far, far from mastery. It's taught me how to be happy, independent of circumstances, and how to find peace, even in the midst of the worst chaos. And so what's different from my system? Yeah, PUA may teach you to get women here and there. In my system, you have to grow as a human being to get good at it. Sure, you can mouth and imitate and parrot my language patterns, but if you really want to get good at it, you have to grow as a human being. Had you met the Ross Jeffries from 10 years ago, I would have been insulting you. I would have been trying to tear you to pieces. I honestly wouldn't have seen you as a human who has her pain, who has her failings, who also has genuine beliefs in what she's doing. I wouldn't have encouraged you where I think you're going right. But the person I'm showing up as today is due to that very practice that I teach my students. So that's another way in which it's profoundly different.
So you because if someone feels an emotion, you tell them to like feel it and not tell stories about it. What does that mean? So if I feel sad or happy, like what do you?
So, so you're asking great questions. So what I mean by that is you experience the actual flow of emotions. Where do you experience it? Is it in your chest? Is it spreading? Is it static? Is it expanding and getting stronger? Is it contracting and getting smaller? Just pick. When my mother died, uh, I was just crippled with grief. I couldn't move. I would lay in my bed. I remember apply the practice. Instead of saying I shouldn't be grieving and why is this happening to me, I just let the raw waves of grief pass through my body. I didn't resist them. I didn't tighten up against them. I stopped the internal dialogue. I just let the raw feelings of grief move through my body. Now it's in my legs. Now it's going local in one spot. Now it's globally spread through my body. And by allowing it to happen without fighting it, within 30 minutes, it just broke up into waves of energy. And I was able to function. I was grieving, but I wasn't suffering to the point where I couldn't function. That's what I mean by it. Is that making it any more clear?
Yeah, so it's almost like you're not telling stories about it and like thinking
Yeah.
about all the stuff about your mom dying. You're just like
Yes.
focusing on the emotion and it
Yes.
makes it go away.
Yes.
And then you have a
Because
clearer
people,
mind.
yeah, yes, because typically people make two bad choices. They either tighten up and turn away, or they feed it with story. I learned, look, I'm just cooking with the ingredients my teacher Shinzen Young taught me. In my mind, he is the meditation, what Einstein was to physics. He made it available to me. He made it rigorous and scientific and no om, and worshiping statues and burning incense or none of that nonsense. As you can see, even though we've had disagreements, I'm a very rigorous thinker. I appreciate science and logic and clear thinking. And he was the first person to make it available to me. So I teach my students that because, again, in an area of life, it's not like learning to ride a bicycle. In an area of life where you've had a lot of failure, I've had students come to me and say, honestly, Ross, I had a bottle of bleach waiting in back in my apartment. I was going to drink it if this seminar didn't work. I've had guys tell me that he had the gun out in the nightstand. I had a student, brilliant composer from Canada. His name was Tristan. He told me at the midnight, January and New Year's Eve at midnight, he walked into the ocean and he got this close and he heard a little voice in his head say, no, get on the internet. And he found me. So I joke around. I say things like, you don't get laid. I don't get paid. Get laid now. Ask me how. I joke around because I'm a provocateur. If I said, modulate your emotions and communicate in a way that blah, 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 no one would sign up. Just like you have to provoke in order to get views, even though now after this conversation, I've come to change my view of you. I think you really do believe most of what you're saying. You've learned to say it in a provocative way. In the same way, I have genuine compassion for my students, and I really care. I want to make a difference, even though I act like a a-hole, because that's the Ross Jeffries persona.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Ross Jeffries gets views. That's how I do what I do in a different media form than you do. You're young and modern. I'm an old fart who's more excited about a nap than getting a woman.
That actually makes sense. Do you think young people need that more because we've all been on had social media since we were like young? Because I was even thinking my sister's generation, they only hang out online. It's really weird. Like because my generation, we got social media when I was like 13 maybe or 14. But like most of my childhood, we didn't have it. But my sisters, like they all had it from like super young.
I think every human being needs it. I think we live in an increasingly nasty, chaotic, narcissistic, cruel world where we're divided more than ever. This wokeism is a cancer. I know, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I know that feminists, in many ways, what's his name? The guy who runs 21 Convention likes to say feminism is a cancer. Well, I like to say that wokeism is a cancer, self-indulgence is a cancer, and being able to learn how to be compassionate for yourself and to other people is the antidote to all of it.
Mm.
You can be controversial, but also compassionate. You can be flamboyant, but also genuinely care for other people. Ultimately, my view of you has changed because of the way you've conducted this interview. I see you as someone who says things to provoke, but who basically does believe what she says and who has the maturity. I'm not being condescending, I'm being honest, and who has the maturity to change her views. And that takes courage. It takes tremendous courage to say, you know what? I've changed my views on it, because I'm sure you're going to take heat from your fans. So I honestly do. I salute you for your courage and your tenacity and your work ethic. Your work ethic is better than mine, or I'd be wealthier than I am. Where did you get your work ethic? Was that influence? You don't have to answer. Did you get it from your mom?
I got it from my dad.
From your father?
Yeah, my dad's like, yeah, my dad, he built like a software company. It had over like 200 employees, and
Wow.
yeah, and he built like a 10-bedroom house like himself. He just built
Wow.
like he just made a shed. He's like in his 50s and 60s, and he like is probably in better shape than most guys in their 20s. And
Hey.
Yeah. Well, and he does like everything himself. So he like
Let me try to flex the pecs.
yeah. Yeah, well, he's like in a different type of shape. Like he doesn't lift or anything, but like he's just one of those guys that are like go go go. And so when I was like how old was I? I remember I was like 10 or 12, and I was a year young. I was a year young in school. Um and I always had like a hard time in school because I was a year young, and when you're young, it's like, I don't know, it's like a bigger, anyways. And I was like 12, and I thought I was stupid, right? Because I couldn't do math or I couldn't do something. And then my
Right.
dad, he told me, he said, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, one, you're not stupid, and two, it's not about how smart you are, it's about how hard you work. And the older you get in life, he said, I would rather employ someone that works hard than is smart, because, you're young now and like talent wins now, but you're going to get older and the people that work hard are going to win. And I don't know, it just kind of like stuck with me, I guess. So,
That,
yeah.
as we say in Hebrew, kol hakavod, all the glory to your father. Good for him. He should be very proud of his daughter, because you're living the work ethic
Yeah.
that he gave you, Pearl.
Yeah. Thank
Did
you.
you expect me to be an asshole, or did you expect this, or did you expect me to be a real a-hole to you?
Oh, no, I thought you'd be nice. I thought you were nice in your
Oh,
videos.
no, you're right.
Yeah, I didn't think you were, no, because I was just curious. Like, I wasn't really trying to like go back and forth. I was just curious, like, what your thoughts were, because you seem like a smart guy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You forgot to mention a silver fox.
yeah, that
You got
too.
lucky. He was very mean to me when when I first met him.
He was
Was
mean.
I mean to you, Ice?
Of course. Well, we were just playing around anyway.
We were just playing, and you took it well. We're still friends, so you took it well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Off the air, Pearl, I'll tell you who my famous niece is. I can't tell you on the air.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on. This was fun. You should
Thank you,
come.
Pearl.
You should come back. We'll do this again. Yeah.
I'd be proud and happy. And again, congratulations on your work ethic and your success. And my hope for you is that you do continue to grow, as you seem to be at the beginning of more nuanced in your thinking. It'll improve the power of your voice and improve what you bring to the table. I really believe that.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Ice White, for putting it together.
Thanks. Yeah, no worries. What are you gonna do for celebrating 2 million subscribers when you get there? Very soon, I hope.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't even do anything. You know what's funny? I didn't even do anything for 1 million. Like, I didn't even order the plaque. Blessing did it for me. I didn't like even order the plaque to, what was I at? Like 1.5.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't usually do anything. I just say yay and I just keep going.
Well, listen, Dan Bilzerian is willing to come on your show. So when he's busy right now, but once he's ready, he'll be ready to go.
Oh shit, yeah. Yeah, he's lived an interesting life. That's a guy that slept with like a bajillion girls, right?
Pretty much, yeah. He almost bought Playboy, but he changed his mind after Hugh Hefner died, of course.
Hmm.
He changed his mind because they stopped doing only women models, if you know what I mean.
Oh, oh, dang. Well, I don't know. I hear his stories, and my number one question is, how did you not like catch anything? You know what I mean?
Oh well,
Exactly.
just like Ross, he has like this whole legitimate testing process. But I recommend you read his book, The Setup. He released it 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
It's
Um,
very good.
well, do you guys want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, they can find me at speedseduction.ai. You can get, it's like having the virtual me 24/7. You can go on there and try it for free. So it's speedseduction.ai. If you're willing to fork over a minimum of $50,000 for a weekend, go to seduction.com/apply. But really, I don't do it anymore. You have to find me at speedseduction.ai. Thank you for that, Pearl. I appreciate it.
And do you want to
Yes.
tell them where they can find you too?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, Game Global. I also have my own AI, which is the AI wingman for online dating called MGAI, short for Message Game AI, based on my book. Working on the second edition of that. But if you just Google or go to the website gameglobal.net, you can find a banner at the top, which will take you straight there. It's to give you responses to your Tinder matches, Instagram messages, and so much more to get women on dates. And it's based on a lot of data over the years and put together by real AI people who used to work at Google, as well as dating experts. So there we
And
go.
mine will tell you what to do once you get them on the dates to not spend money and actually get them in your bed. So they're complementary, not competitive.
Mine will
Pearl,
get
thank
you
you
the
for this.
dates.
Yeah. Oh,
Pearl, thank you for this.
yeah. And guys, he had a really good pickup line on my show. I don't remember what it was, but I remember I liked the date idea. It was like
Oh, what,
rollerblading.
my
Yeah,
line?
yeah. You had something on the show that.
What are free things? Let's skip all the bullshit. What are free things you would love to do for a first date was one of them, and another one was let's skip all the bullshit. How spontaneous are you? No, how adventurous are you? And you said you love going rollerblading. You
Yeah.
like basketball, and I forgot what the other one was. And yeah, I suppose someone or plenty of people probably sent you lots of messages copying those lines.
My shade on that would be if you could go somewhere where none of your friends would ever find out what you would do, where would you go and what would you be doing?
You ask good questions. I don't even know.
You don't have to answer that, but it's a good
Okay.
question.
So anyway, when are we going rollerblading, man?
Anytime. I love rollerblading. Let's blade.
All right. Of course, my wife is coming. If you want, you can come to our wedding. We're already married, but it's just a second ceremony. So come to Peru. We're gonna have our wedding at a beach resort, basically.
Oh wow.
Where's my
That
invite?
sounds
Whatever.
Is she
Okay,
converting?
fine. Okay, fine.
Wait, is she converting? Is it a Jewish wedding?
She's a Catholic and I'm an atheist.
Oh, good for you. I'm an atheist too. All right.
Okay, guys.
I get
Hold on. I'm gonna say bye to the chat. Guys, make sure you like the video on your way out and subscribe.